And thank you for inviting me to this conference, and thank you for my personal interpret who has made it possible for me to understand this interesting 2 days. And I will first very quickly try to tell how architecture is inside the Finnish school curriculum. Here are the most important steps. I had to choose some of the steps how architecture has taken into the consideration by the Finnish government. And I think the most important steps is that in 1993 the government issued this national curriculum for civic architecture education, as Riklev mentioned. And in 1998 the government made an architectural policy, and one part is about architecture education to children. And 2001 we had a new Land Building Act which stresses that all citizens, including the young citizens, should be able to participate in the design process of designing and doing planning of the cities. Before 2003 I was taking part in a group in Ministry of Education before they issued the new national core curriculum for Finnish schools, and with this group we found out how architecture should be put in different subjects inside the school and not only be taught inside art as it is traditionally. And we had, for 6 years, we had a very interesting job in the Helsinki metropolitan area, which was called Children's Architecture Education Consultant. And her job was to find ways for having architecture education in the schools, getting together professionals and schools, and organizing all kinds of events to make further this subject. So in the Finnish school system, everybody goes, 93% of the Finnish children go through grades 1 to 9. And there is cross-curricular themes which should be taught throughout all these 9 years and also integrated in all the subjects. And I think these ones that are in the bigger capital letters, the cultural identity, participatory citizenship, responsibility for the environment and well-being and sustainable future, I think that they all relate to architecture and built environment education. And on paper this looks, I think, really good. And when we worked in this group, making the new curriculum for the schools to grades 1 to 6, these were the subjects where we were able to, which we found were the most easy to integrate with architecture and built environment education. So I have just put some examples here, what kind of subjects can be studied inside these subjects in the school. So theoretical subjects are 65% of all the subjects that children learn in the school, and almost 25% are called arts and skills. And inside this, it's only 3.7%, which is then visual arts. And inside this visual arts, environmental aesthetics, architecture, and design altogether are 0.9%. So this is how architecture is then taught throughout the years. And if you put it into the hours of teaching, it's only 72 hours in 9 years, which means 8 hours in 1 year and 1 hour in a month. And this is all what you are supposed to learn in this time. So there is, I think, quite high expectations of what you can learn in this very few hours, like the way I look at it. Because for these things to happen, I think you need to have a very broad understanding of the built environment to meet these standards, what the Ministry of Education thinks that all the children will learn. And the system of school in Finland is so that all the schools are government schools. We have only one private school in the whole country. So everybody goes through this same system. And how are the teachers supposed to teach all this? What is supposed to be taught in these 8 hours a year? In the teachers' education in the universities, they have 5 points out of 160, which is the obligatory amount of visual arts that they study. Then they can take voluntary studies. And also there is a possibility to study a subject which is called architecture. And in the university where art teachers study, there is several courses that are called architecture and environment that the students, to become teachers, they can choose. But then we have another system which is not inside the school system, but it's called the civic education, basic education of architecture. And it is an after-school activity. And it can be either provided by cities or by non-governmental organizations. And the idea of this is to support and extend the art education inside the school, and also the government thinks that it has relationships. This architecture education is in relation with technical, mathematical, and social subjects. The government decided in 1993 that also architecture should be one of these art forms that are taught outside in this, under this basic education of arts. So before there was, for 70 years since the Second World War, there was music schools in Finland, and we've had art schools since 35 years for children and youth, and now next year for Arkki school where I work, we will be 20 years next year. There is also another architecture school, specifically architecture school for children in Finland, and also in many of these art schools there is a possibility for children to study courses about architecture. We are working in the architecture school. We work under the rules of the government. They have made a national core curriculum for the basis, and I also participated in that work group. In that core curriculum, architecture is defined as a qualitative concept that is related to the built environment and concerning the planning and realization of the environment. And architecture is about integrated unity of aesthetics, utility, functionality, technology, and ecology. And always, like Barbara said, I always want to also stress that architecture education is not for creating small architects or bigger architects in the future. We have had in Arkki, for example, more than 10,000 students, children, and only 20 have become architects. And in whole Finland, we only have 3,500 architects, and I think if all our 10,000 students would become architects, it wouldn't work. But always this is something that maybe some people, if they are not familiar with architecture education, they wonder if it's for making small architects. We believe that architecture education gives children new possibilities and means and mediums to influence the creation of our future environment. Because when they gain the knowledge, they can do much more. And we have lots of different activities, and we wish that the children get interest. We wish to light a spark in young people's minds so that they want to influence and participate in the development of the built environment in the future, whatever their occupation is. And because many people in all kinds of professions are making decisions, important decisions that influence our environment. So we work in the metropolitan area, where actually in this small area there lives, so here lives 20% of all the Finnish population, and the rest live scattered around the whole country. So we have 3 schools in Helsinki, Espoo, and Vantaa. And this I wanted to show because then we have a lot of the population that have the possibility to join this free time architecture courses if they find it interesting. And our weekly creative personnel is 15 architects. And during the year, when we have also the summer courses and other courses, we have 30 architects working in Arkki. Mostly, our main thing is to offer these after-school activity architecture clubs, as we call them, for 4 years, starting from 4-year-olds to 19-year-olds. And the children that are 4 to 6-year-olds, they come to the clubs with their parents. So we are actually educating also adults, but they don't know it. So we have this around 500 children and 100 adults coming every week. The approximate amount of teaching hours, what we do per year, is 3,400. And for one student who starts at 4 years old, he has a possibility to study in Arkki for 16 years, and then he can get teaching of a total of 1,800 hours during these years. We have a small architecture gallery. We have summer courses and winter courses, which are open for everybody and not only those students who attend these weekly courses. Then we work with museums and schools and teacher training. And here, for example, is a exhibition in the Museum of Modern Art where the children participated. And then we do a lot of public workshops to raise the awareness of young children and also the adults. Many times the workshops are not only open for children, but also for the parents. And for example, this workshop was made together with Helsinki City Planning Office. Oh, not so loud. And the idea in this was that the children and youth get the idea of a specific area in Helsinki which is going to be built in the next 20 years. And why this area is important, because it is such a big area, and it will also have buildings that are 20 to 30 stories high, which is, in Helsinki we have a building code that all buildings are maximum 6 stories. So this area will be something very strange and something which is hard to imagine, because such an area does not exist in Finland. So to the participants, we showed the plans that the city planning office has made and the illustrations that the architects have made and pictures of and visualizations of the area. And on the basis of this workshop, we had the map in scale 1 to 500, where then all the participants could join and make it three-dimensional, make a vision of this new area in 3 dimensions and build it on top of the map. And why we used Lego is that it is a material or a medium which is familiar one to everybody in the Nordic countries. It has memories, everybody has used them as a child, so we had also lots of fathers building in this workshop. And it's something that is considered playful and nice, so it was not like, oh, terrible, scary city planning workshop, but everybody was running and jumping and coming there, and they didn't find this at all strange or difficult. So this was, we had 1,400 people joining in this. It was open for 1 week, and of course we had to take down in the meanwhile because we got so many new buildings, so every day we had to start again. So this was one example of how we work with the public workshops. Now I will show some participatory projects. We have a very nice relationship with the Helsinki City Planning Office, and we have done almost 10 different projects with them, and trying to find a way how to do this, how to make it work, this new building law from 2001, how can we make all the young citizens to participate, and by which means. So we have had different kinds of projects, some where the children are judges in the competition, some where they make a competition brief before it's handed out to the architects, and all kinds of different things. But this was a project where children really planned an area for 4,000 people, and it was kind of a competition, but then all the results were displayed and nobody was chosen to be winner. But this is the area. It has been a shipyard for a long time, and now it's going to be built in the next 10 years. We wanted to take all age groups in this project because we ourselves wanted to see how 3-year-olds, how they are able to handle topics like this, and then we had all age groups until 18 years old. And what was critical was that we had enough time. We had 6 months to do this, and we had 5 architects working with the children in different groups. We had 10 different groups, and at the end we counted that we spent 500 hours on this, so it really needs time to work. So here you can see the child and parent groups. The young children are working here to get to understand basic concepts about city planning. And also it was very, very interesting because it turned out that they started to argue with their parents about parking and how to arrange the roads and all kinds of circulation of public transport. So it was a surprise for us that they had strong opinions on that. And here you can see the area concepts by the 4 to 6-year-olds. And of course the scale is not right and all kinds of things like that, but you can see that they all have different solutions, how to arrange the roads, how to arrange the green parks, and how to arrange the housing. So you can see that these all present some kind of ideas about city planning. And of course we could work with different ways with different age groups. And we decided that the teenage group would be the one who would collect all the ideas and make one plan together, and by this way they would learn also how to make like a real planning process in a democratic way, where you have to listen to others and you have to communicate in the group and you have to listen to the others and in order to make only one final plan, which was in this case. And then also the children, they built this model, the teenagers, and the photograph of this model was then put in an aerial photo so they could really understand how this would look if it was built in the future. So everybody turned in boards, so we also made these boards, and in these boards we showed that it's not so that all the children are of unanimous opinion, but we showed that there was a big process behind, and there was lots of things that were learned during this process. And at the end, all these different solutions, different presentations were put to the public. These are by 3 different architect groups. So all these were presented, along with these are the proposals of the local citizen groups of adults. And then there was lots of discussions, public discussions in different places, and everybody could talk about this. Our children went to these discussions and presented their idea, and they listened to the others' ideas. And then everybody, the public who didn't participate in it, could also ask questions and make comments. And why we did it the same way as the architects, it was for the children to get to understand and to read and the language of architects. So after they did this project, they were able to read all these other pictures and comment and be able to discuss their opinions about this. And the difficulty in this adult participation was that they didn't have any architect in the group, so they didn't do a similar presentation of their ideas. And now, just this few coming months, this plan has been developed now 5 years or something in the city planning office, and now it's going to the council to be approved. So it's a long process, and just last month some of our students visited the planning office again to get the representation and what is happening now. And of course some of our students have become adults already during the process, but some are still studying with us, so they are now following what is happening. And then this area, close to this area, the next project what we will start is the planning of this one island, and that we will start next year. And then a small participation project of making interior design. And this was initiated by the Save the Children foundation. And in the beginning they asked us that, okay, can the children do the design of the whole building? And then when I started looking at the thing, I found out that the architects had already asked for the permission, and it was like already they were starting the building. So of course I said that it's not possible at this moment that the children start planning the building, because it's already planned and the basement has already been started. So then we, together with the architects, who was very willing to do this, so we decided that it's better to make some zones and areas where the children can design, and we make sure at the end that it's realized, because in many projects in the beginning there is lots of will, but when we come to the end there is no money and no time. So we just wanted to be sure that this would work at the end also. So it was the main lobby that was chosen, and the children designed the main lobby floor, and they themselves chose as a team underwater world. So each participant made one sector, and they visited the aquarium, and they read National Geographic and found out about the underwater world, and because we had many years of time to do this. So then they made this at the end, and then it was scanned in the computer, and it was made into this pixelized picture, and then this pixel was sent to Italy, and then here's the final floor then, which is the mosaic. And also this, the workman who did this floor, he was so proud that he asked his family also to come to the opening and see what he had also done, because he laid out the children's picture on the floor. And then the children could also make these individual pictures in the corridors of offices, and then also the walls in the restrooms and bathrooms. This project is a recent one. It's a different one because we did this. Now Helsinki is the world design capital, and we wanted to do a big architecture project with children. So this one is in the internet. It's an architectural map, and it is we designed it together with the children, and it is the idea is that children and youth present their own ideas in this website and for other children to look. So we have done Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa and Kauniainen. And we use here, we want to see the children to show these places in the city, what they find interesting or what they find scary, and also which kind of things they like there, and also we haven't restricted it so much. And in this project, the children are active producers of the culture, and they are also the end users of this culture. And they are introducing their opinions in this See My City website with photos, videos, and texts, as well as we have done some projects where they make future plans in the city. We had this, it was supposed to come to Helsinki Guggenheim Museum, but it's not coming now. But before, when it was supposed to come, we also studied this possibility with the children, what it would look like in this place. And each student made their own version of this Guggenheim Museum. And the last project is a participation in a future school research. Are you showing me some time? How much? 2 minutes. Okay. So this was part of a big research where was 3 universities in Finland, the university where they the architecture university, and then the teacher university, and then also sorry, but anyway. So there was 4 different parts in Arkki where they studied places and spaces for learning, and innovative, playful learning environments, education with innovation, and service innovations for the future schools. So children's workshops for 5 months were, I have to explain that my sister is an architect, and she's also teaching in Arkki, so she did this as her master's degree and as a sub-research for a researcher in the University of Technology, which is now Aalto University. And so she had different kinds of workshops about the school with the children, and they were all videoed and recorded and then analyzed and then used as part of the bigger research. So she went from details to bigger entities, so because she thought that for children and the young it's easier to understand first smaller things and then building up the knowledge from the smaller things and going to the bigger unity. And the last part was designing a whole school building. And the important things were for children: natural light spaces, connection with the outdoor spaces, private spaces, intimate spaces, meeting spaces, and also using the outside areas. And the children came up with different typologies, which are, I think, the same that are used by architects in the schools. So in this terrible address, you can find this whole project as a PDF. Ask me later, it's maybe too long to write down. And now there is, this year they organized a competition where this future school actually is going to now, one group of architects won this project and they are starting to design it. So, built environment in school, everywhere, it's very important. Children spend inside the school, they spend like 70–80% of their awake time. So it provides us all with the framework in our lives. And that's why all the future citizens should have an active understanding of it. They will be able to take a stand on matters related to the built environment if they know about it. And in this way, they can affect the quality of our own lives and the lives of others. And I think that architecture education and built environment education really provide tools for a responsible and active citizenship.